Hello everybody. So today we are looking at web scraping a website called Yelp.com. So, categories. What category are we looking at? Well, I'm thinking the logic here can apply to any category, but I had to pick one. So I chose plumbers and the area was London, as I thought that would provide me with a useful number of results that I could write my code with. I didn't want hundreds of thousands and I didn't want one or two. So if we scroll down, we will see we've got 20 results per page. That's the default. I've not altered anything. And if we look here, we can see we've got 178 results. So that should run in a nice amount of time. And also I'm noticing, so 20 results per page, I'm noticing that we will be able to use, right click, inspect, we will be able to use next page or pick out a URL of the next page by inspecting this. So it's starting at result 20, so it'll be going from result 20 up to 40. So that's the class name, which we'll use in our XPATH when we come to doing the next page navigation. Anyway, that's a bit further on. So for now, the first things we want to do is collect the start URL. That will let us begin writing some code, and we will write a class and call it Yelp Spider. And that URL with plumbers and London and ns equals 1 will become the start URL, which Scrapy goes off and finds. And then from that we will then need to write a parse method which will process the response from that. And then we will proceed to extract the title, the link, which is also here. So the link and the text of the link, both from here. And we also want to get the URL. There we see the title. That's the link, which we will then join with the start URL to give us the absolute URL. And what else do we want? We will be also going to the detail page, and we want to extract the website address and the telephone number. So eventually we will have telephone number, website address, logo. I'm calling that the logo because it's the closest thing to a logo. I know, for instance, when I went onto one of the websites, they didn't really have a logo. So as far as we're concerned, the logo will be the picture which appears here. So if that's of interest, let's start taking a look at how we're going to create the code. Okay, so I've used Scrapy Start Project Yelp to create this project, and it's created the following structure for me with items py, which we will use, and the settings py, which we may or may not modify. Pipelines we won't touch, middlewares we will leave alone. So that's the project structure. Scrapy creates that for you, enough said. And the basic framework which we will use is start requests and parse. Well, that's my thoughts at the start of the code, may or may not change. And then I've also added this, which is the section that you need to use to run the code from the Python script rather than running it via Scrapy. This makes it a lot more self-contained, and you can use Python Yelp spider.py to run the spider, which is a lot more straightforward. And let's go and look at the rest of the project. So as usual, we need to inspect the HTML and pick out the potential selectors. Well, we need to pick out the class names because they will form the selectors in our XPaths or CSS. I'll be using XPath here, and if you don't use XPath, then the CSS is pretty similar. You need to pick out the tag and the class name, really. What I've done here is identified the part which, or the element which contains all of the pieces which we want to identify and pick out. So I want the name, the href, which is also there, the logo or the link to the logo. Potentially we might want to get the description text there. That would depend on what the requirements of the customer. So as you can see, there's quite a long class name here. So I'll be picking out that class name 20 times, or rather the response selector will be picking it out 20 times per page. Now, how will I identify all of those? Well, it will be this, and we will use the period symbol to specify that we want all of them on that level. You'll see that more clearly coming up soon. Okay, so next we want to start testing our selectors, and we want to get a response from Scrapy that we can use to create the selectors with. So here you can see I tried a fetch on this site, which was our start URL that we identified just now, Fordbidden by robots.txt. So what you need to do there is go into settings.py and edit that so that robots obey equals false. Obviously scrape responsibly, don't hammer the website or you get banned. So So this was a job on Upwork, and as you can see, categories, cities. So while we're doing this, we'll need to bear in mind that we may need to do this not on, particularly on plumbers, but we may need to be doing it on houses, cars, whatever. So yeah, logo, fair idea that we can extract that from within the selector we've just identified, or the class that we've just identified. Phone number, that's on the next page, that's on the details page. Facebook page, not sure about that. May actually need to take a basic Facebook URL and append the name of the business to it. So Bob Handy, so Facebook blah 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 / Bob Handyman, and see if we get something from that. That's we'll do that last. That's not really the main emphasis of this tutorial. Okay, so given that we're familiar with writing start requests, in fact you don't need to specify it if it's implicit, so you're welcome to write it and modify it, but if you don't, it's running in the background in any case, and it will do a callback to self.parse. So as you'll see from my code shortly, I have written it just for completeness. What we need to do is using the class name of each listing. So within your browser, right click, inspect, and then you will, as you move the mouse, the highlighting will change. As soon as you get to the bit that has all of the text you want, an image, use that class. You can right click, copy out your HTML, paste that into Notepad, and then you can pick out, you need to pick out the class name, and then you need to specify, and the tag name, so div or A or P or span, and that will form your XPath selector. So actually here I could have used div. The asterisk will find any. It's a wild card. Also, the period character, because we want to find all 20 of these and iterate through 20, we need to identify all of those. To get all of them, we use the period character and that identifies all of those XPaths at that level, at that node level. All ads. So that will become 20 adverts, which we can then iterate through. Once we've got the 20, we can then go through again and pick out these individually, pick out the individual advert. And you'll see that in due course. So that will be down here. You can see I've already written it. And I've used get rather than get all, or rather the selector will use get. Anyway, that is what you need to do to identify your, what I call it, the iterable. You need to find the piece that you will be able to loop through, in this case 20 times. Okay, so just a quick recap on constructing your selectors. From the HTML that you are able to identify using developer tools in your browser, inspect, you will find something like this. You need to identify the class name. The class name is what goes here. Inside the square brackets, that is called the predicate. So you will always have a class and you'll always have a tag. Well, you will if you do it the way I'm showing you. And to identify the actual image source, you do /@src. So really this looks long and confusing, but period / / that means from the current level in the DOM as opposed to the entire DOM from the root. So image, which we know it's an image because it's an image tag. The class name, which we get from there, from identifying it in developer tools. We know we want to get the image source or the URL of the image, so we use @src. So src there, src equals, that's what we see in the HTML. So we tell the selector to pick out that, and then the selector will, when it runs, will hopefully return with that. That's what we want to get returned. And we use get because we only want to get it one item. We don't want to use get all. If you're using extract or extract first, then you will need to use extract first here rather than get. And that will then return a variable or an object which we can call logo_URL. So this is an example of writing a selector. Don't worry about ads.xpath. Ads identifies it as the iterable within our all ads loop. So we have all ads, which equals 20 results, and then we have ads, which is one ad inside of the 20. You'll see that further on. Okay, so just a quick recap on the details page. We have the website and we have telephone number. As you can see, there's no real logo. I think what happens is the first photo that they've uploaded into photos and videos is the one that gets shown on the listing. So if we go to the actual website, they don't always have a logo. So the requirement was to pick out a logo. So for the purposes of this, we'll be using the thumbnail, which is displayed on the main listing page. So there we go. URL, website URL, and telephone number. Those are the two key pieces that we will be extracting. Okay, so I don't want to go over old ground here. I want to illustrate the use of Meta. Meta has enabled me to successfully extract the data which we were asked to provide. Now, what happened if I didn't use Meta? You may have seen on a previous video that I'd written a piece of code to scrape Craigslist, which worked. No, I started to use the same structure here, and as per the Craigslist code, what I did was start requests, pass as normal, as you will see on just about every Scrapy spider. What I also did though was I used add value, and again, nothing wrong with that, nothing wrong with that at all. But by using that, I had to line 48 yield response.follow to the details page, and the callback was self.fetch underscore detail. Again, nothing wrong with that. Which runs that. So from the main page, each of those 20 adverts, it then goes off and attempts to come back with the website and telephone number. Again, the selectors, I've covered that before, and if you want me to, I can do a whole video on XPATH selectors, but for this video, we'll take it as read that they're written and they work, which they do. So what was the problem? Well, I'll show you. Okay, so using the code called Yelp spider no meta, I was able to produce this, which successfully extracted the logo URL, the link, the company name, and also what I was hoping was going to be the website and the telephone number. However, as you can see, line 2, London Engineers Company, whereas 4 empty rows, and then RCB Plumbing has the website address of lecompany.com, which is plainly that one, and so on. Switch London, line 16, has a website of Builder Colofs, which actually should really be Switch London. So these two, the company telephone number and the company website appear to be getting mixed up. Why is that? Well, it's because Scrapy runs asynchronously. There we go, I said it. Now, what's confused me is the fact that it worked on my Craigslist code. So, potentially, there is a different delay in the page loading, and that's caused Scrapy to extract certain parts faster than others, and by the time the detail has been collected, Scrapy has proceeded to extract more information from parse, and the information is then obviously getting out of sequence. So don't do what I've done here. Don't try and extract the telephone number and the website using a method and then passing back to parse. What we need to do is use meta. Now, I've just shown you the code without using meta, which was the code which produced the bad Excel file. So now let's look at the code which is successful and the proper way to do it. Okay, so hopefully you've understood the problem. The problem is that Scrapy is asynchronous, so it returns bits of data at different rates from the separate methods. What I've done here is use meta, and that's really the whole point of this video, is to really illustrate why you need to use meta when you need to pass data between two functions or two methods, because it's a class. A function inside a class is called a method, for those who don't know. So I'll just quickly run through the overall structure of the code, and then we will focus on meta. So again, I've imported some packages, which are, just to let you read those there. I've imported OS, which you saw me do in a previous video. I do that so that I can use OS remove. I found this on Stack Overflow, so really it's a nice little quick way of deleting any previous search results or spider results that you would have saved to your file. I mean, potentially you could call your CSV file something different each time by appending it with the date and time, but you'll end up with a whole directory full of files, and really when you're creating spider you only want one CSV file to check. So I'm removing it. If it exists, I'm removing it so that I'm good to go with a fresh one. Oh yeah, where does that come from? So if you run Scrapy from the command line, you need to specify the output file. If you're running it from within the script, you can use this updated feeds export method and results.csv. So you've got a dictionary inside a dictionary, and the file name is that, and the format is that. See my other video for a quick comparison between this and the previous method, which was using feed_format and feed_URI. Right, so we've covered that. We know the start URL, the headers, the user agent. Yeah, I'll let you read up on using user agents. I won't cover that here. But if you check robots.txt for the website you want to scrape, you may well see the user agents which are allowed. That's all I need to say on that. Start requests, as already discussed. So let's look at the meat of the program. Okay, so I apologise for the selectors disappearing off the edge of the page. They are actually on the GitHub code, so if you want to go on GitHub and go to this URL, you can see the code, copy the code, try it out yourself. You will need to use the spider.py in conjunction with the items.py. You'll need two files, and it's all on GitHub on rggh. Pass. Okay, so this is where the fun starts. We want to iterate through 20 adverts per page, as I've already shown earlier. All ads represents the HTML code that contains all 20 of the adverts. So if you do response.xpath and that in Scrapy Shell, and then do get, you will see all of the code with 20 lots of this, and 20 lots of that, and 20 of that, and 20 of that. So all ads contains everything you want to search within. If you get the response from that in Scrapy Shell, you can paste it into a text editor, and then you can do Control F, and hopefully you'll find 20 of these, 20 of those, 20 of those. If you find more, then you'll need to narrow down your XPath, narrow down your selector so that you omit the extraneous ones, the ones you don't want. For instance, there might be 20 results, but you might find you're getting 23 logos because they've used that for some adverts or something. So you can also, with XPath, you can use more advanced features such as starts with, or contains, and I'll show that in a future video. Anyway, for all ads, we're doing our for loop, so we want to loop through the 20 items on the first page, and we want to extract, okay, so we want to extract the link, the logo, and the company name, which we've already analysed. The details link, so we want to say the details link is, for each iteration, it will be the iterator.xpath, and then we will pick out this, and I'll just scroll across. We will use get because we only want to get one instance, or one of those. We don't want to get all. And that link is then what we will pass, details link, to response.url join, because we want to join the details link to the base URL to concatenate it to form an absolute URL, which we can then pass when we yield. So once we've extracted those 3 bits, we will then go and request from the absolute URL, which is the URL, or the URL, absolute URL of the details page which we want to go to collect the website address and the telephone number. So this is the important bit. We need to go to the absolute URL, call back and tell it to go to this function method, which will be the one that collects the website, telephone number. And why are those 3 there? They're there because we've passed them. We've passed them using meta. So the whole point of this video is to illustrate why we need to use meta. We collected these 3 bits of information in our pass for the first page. So for each iteration, i.e. 20 times we want to go through page 1 and we want to pass the link to the detail page, the logo URL, so that's the URL of the thumbnail image on each advert, which we're calling the logo, and company name. Now the company name we've extracted from the href, and as you will see across here, we've used @name. Sometimes you can do /text, pair of parentheses, but in this occasion it had a name tag, so we had to use @name. Okay, so these 3 variables we've collected in the pass response inside the for loop now get passed to the next method, which is fetch detail. Now you can see where this is going. Fetch detail will then go and get the company website, the company telephone number from the detail page, and this is what has been passed by meta.get, response.meta.get. So from the response, which we have here, we will then get link, logo, company name, and we will yield those. So I think it's time to run it. And here we have the code that I've written in Atom, identical to what you've just been looking at. The text is a bit smaller, so apologies for that, but here we go, let's run it. And hopefully you can see it's going off and collecting for each advert on page 1. It's going off fetching the telephone number and the website address from the detail page, along with the 3 bits of information it collected from the advert on page 1, which was the company name, the link, and the logo URL. So let's just view that. Click on this, and within Atom you can actually view the output as a text file, which is nice. Let me just scroll, that's a bit bigger, there we go. So we can see 200 successful response, and the first thing it did was go and get the start request, the page from start requests, and from that page it then picked out from the very first advert, it picked out London Engineers, LE company, telephone number, logo URL, and then it went on to the next. You might notice, if you look at the website, you may notice that London Engineers was the first result. Now, if I just drag this over here, and we want to go back up, and I don't know how to do that. Let's just... Okay, yeah, so inspecting the output, we can see we had on line 40 London Engineers Company, which I'm just going to show you the website. London Engineers Company was result 1, which is what we would have expected. However, the next result was on line 41, SEIGHT plumbers, which, if I scroll down, I'll show you, is actually the 20th result. And the next one, Richmond Home Repairs, number 19. It's like playing bingo, isn't it? And then West Hampstead, which is 18. And then Dulwich, which is 17. And then Goldcrest, which is 16. So, yeah, it got the first result, and then it works backwards. So just something to bear in mind and not to be concerned by. And if I then just open up the CSV to show you, that's the bad one. We want to takes a while to open, as you can see. Okay, company name, website, telephone, logo, URL. And yeah, so the sort order is not the order you see on the page. So if that's going to be a problem, you can add in some kind of sort or enumerate. But what we've got here now, let me just highlight that. You can see London Engineers, lecompany.co.uk. So we know that's probably the correct, we can go and check it, but SEIGHT, and there we go, SEIGHT, Richmond Home Repairs, and the website Richmond Home Repairs. So that's looking promising because we've got the correct company name and matching the correct website address now. Unlike my earlier example, which I was not using Meta for. So hopefully this has demonstrated why and how to use Meta. The code is on GitHub. I'll let you have a look at it, study it, pick it apart, test it. So the key thing here is yield request at the end of the pass. So inside the for loop, you need to yield request each time. So 20 adverts, keep yield indented inside that for loop. So for each of those 20 adverts, you then need to go off to the absolute URL and you need to fetch the detail and you need to pass it the 3 bits of information that you have already collected on the main listing page. Very similar to what I did on Craigslist. On Craigslist I got away with it, but this is the better way to do it and you will get the correct data. So fetch detail. Here we're just setting 3 variables with the response.meta.get that we passed across from the pass method. So we're just loading up these variables, the link, logo, company name, link, logo, company name, and then we are extracting using response.xpath because there is only one, there's no need for a for loop, and we are transferring that into website and telephone variables, and then at the end we yield, and that then sends it to the pipeline, which transfers it via the process to our results.csv. So hope that makes sense. Really, this is just to highlight the use of Meta. It's not really spelled out very much on many tutorials, and obviously you can see it is very important. It's very important if you're collecting data from a detail page and from a listings page. So Meta. Meta, 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 Meta. There we go. Thank you for watching, and I'll be back with something more soon for you to watch and enjoy and learn from, hopefully, or whatever. And don't forget to what is it? Don't forget to don't forget to subscribe. That's it. See you soon. Bye.